The Dagger is consistently one of the worst weapons in pretty much every Castlevania game it's been in, due to its lackluster hitbox and mediocre damage, and in Castlevania 1 it's no exception. With every sub-weapon using the same amount of hearts, there's pretty much never a reason to use this thing, which made me wonder, can you beat the entire game with only the Dagger sub-weapon? After all, to my knowledge, nobody's ever really tried this before. For some very good reasons, turns out. Let's get into the rules. Firstly, I'm only allowed to use the Dagger sub-weapon to attack anything. This includes things like enemies, bosses, or candles. Just because of misinputs, I will technically allow myself to use the whip, as long as it doesn't actually hit anything. And second, I won't allow myself to pause the game. If I accidentally pause, that's fine, but I can't pause the game so I know what a boss is doing. Breaking any of these simply means I have to restart the run. And well, that's it. But before we start, keep in mind that there's 3 skulls hidden in the video, and if you find them all, I'll give you a shout out. And without any further ado, let's get into the challenge. So yeah, no, you can't beat the game with only a knife, since there's no way to actually get a knife without attacking. The bats do die when you touch them, but they can only drop the holy water or stopwatch, so just for the sake of the challenge, I will allow a single whip attack just to get the first knife. Anyway. Now for people who aren't familiar with Castlevania, you can only use a sub-weapon as many times as you have hearts, so we basically just lose if we run out, since the only way to get more is to attack either an enemy or a candle. For this challenge, of course, it isn't that simple. Since we lose a heart every time we want to attack anything, the only way to get more hearts than the starting 5 is by grabbing big hearts, which offer 5 hearts each. Thankfully, big hearts always drop from the same candles, so I can always gather more hearts by simply memorizing every candle that drops one in the game. Anyway, after grabbing enough big hearts in level 1, we can make it to the boss, the Phantom Bat. Even with the Dagger, the Phantom Bat is a super easy fight. His attacks aren't anything to worry about, and he only takes 12 daggers to kill, so it's not too difficult to make it to Now, if we simply play through stage 2 while grabbing every big heart and avoiding every single enemy, we won't have enough hearts to beat the boss of the stage, Medusa. Thankfully, there is a way to get more hearts. Room transitions, specifically those from stairs. We're able to reload the room using these, and everything in the room, including candles, will reset, so we always have a way of getting more hearts whenever we need to. Thankfully, every stage, except one, has a place where you can do this, so heart consumption isn't really an issue. In stage 2, we can do this here to gather around 40 hearts. The rest of the stage isn't too bad. The bone pillars are a bit annoying to deal with, but
okay, man, that sucks. I didn't even know they could drop crosses, man.
Yeah, so another thing about this challenge is that there's no way to get back your sub-weapon if you pick a new one up. So if this ever happens to me, I have to restart from the beginning of the game. Since I'm also playing on the original version, this also applies to every death, as you lose your sub-weapon and I have no way of picking up another knife. So this run isn't just a knife-only run, but also a deathless run, so hopefully we beat it on our first try. But if I make it past everything without anything like that happening, I can fight Medusa. Medusa isn't too difficult of a boss fight. Her boss fight has her hover back and forth, every now and then stopping and spawning snakes. Now if we get good RNG, this fight is honestly the easiest in the game, since I can simply spam daggers and kill her before she can kill me. However, if I don't kill her quick enough, she'll move low enough so that I can only hit her when she's at the highest point of her arc. At this point I need to jump over her if I want to avoid taking damage, but since she has to be moving for me to do this, if I get unlucky with when she stops, it can sometimes cause a death. Thankfully, this is pretty unlikely, so without too much trouble, we can move on to Level 3 starts off with us meeting our first Fleaman and Skeleton, two of the most dangerous enemies in the game for reasons I'll explain later. Thankfully, they're placed in positions here where it's not too difficult to take care of them before they can really do anything, so we can move on to my least favorite part of the run. Now, level 3 is filled with bone pillars which you can't really avoid and take 8 knives to defeat, and also has the Mummy Men boss fight, who, excluding Dracula, have more health than any other boss. Because of this, the safest thing to do is simply grind for the max amount of hearts. And though it is great we have a way of grinding infinite hearts, having to endure 3.5 minutes of this every time I lose a run is definitely not fun. Thankfully, once we make it past that, the rest of the stage isn't too bad. The crows are pretty difficult to deal with once they get going, but I can usually kill them before they can do anything. The real challenge in this level is the Mummy Men boss fight. This fight has the two mummies slowly move towards you, shooting off bandages in an arc. Since they can both shoot bandages at the same time, there's sometimes situations where it's really difficult to avoid damage, making this fight super inconsistent to beat with a knife. Thankfully, I find out that the bandages instantly despawn once they touch a wall. So if I make my way to the right wall, I can pretty much always avoid the bandages if I jump precisely enough. Now you may be wondering why I don't break this block to get access to the left wall and also get some much needed healing. And well, this is because the dagger just does not interact with breakable blocks. So apparently it's also a no healing run, I guess. Now the only issues with staying at the right wall is that if I ever do mistime a jump, the mummies will almost always walk into the right wall, meaning I have to go back to the left wall to reset them before coming back, which is really difficult to do without taking damage. The other issue is that they can sometimes just run into you, which is just completely out of my control. But if I time my jumps correctly and don't get too unlucky with their AI, we can defeat the mummies and make it to Level 4 is the only level where there's no place in the stage to gather infinite hearts, so we have to kill as few enemies as possible if we want to be able to beat the boss. Thankfully, we only need 24 daggers for the boss, the creature, and the stage gives us 6 big hearts in total, for a total of 29 hearts if I don't kill anything. But naturally, it isn't that simple, because of the area right before the creature, which is one of the most dangerous rooms in the game. This area has eagles spawn in every couple seconds, each dropping a fleeman. We don't have nearly enough hearts to kill all of them and defeat the boss, and simply avoiding them and running past them isn't really an option either. The fleemen are not only faster than me, but there's just too many to avoid consistently, and we just don't have enough health to damage boost past them. Now the fleeman's movement is really difficult to deal with, but at the very least it is predictable. They'll always run forward when you're either too far away from them or facing away, and whenever they're right in front of you, they'll always jump forward. Since I do have a few hearts to spare, my best option is to kill the first few fleemen as they jump over me, keeping a few extra hearts because of the creature's companion, Igor, who can sometimes block my attacks and waste my hearts. At this point, my only option is to try and stay alive for long enough to make it to the next area, which obviously isn't easy, since the eagles will just keep on dropping fleemen as I run forward. So what I have to do is alternate between running forward and pausing so the fleemen will jump over me, while damage boosting whenever I'm cornered. Doing all this successfully looks like this. Unfortunate. And at this point, I should be left with 1 or 4 health left. Now the way this game's damage works is that each level has a certain amount of damage that every enemy deals, level 1 and 2 being 2, level 3, 3, and level 4 being the same, until I reach this specific room, where it goes up to 4, the only place in the game where the damage changes mid-level, meaning I'll pretty much always have to beat the room, including the boss, hitless. Getting past the white dragons at the start is pretty consistent, since with certain setups I can pretty much always jump over them without harm, but the boss is a different story. The creature himself isn't really an issue, as all he can do is move back and forth. The real problem is Igor. Igor repeatedly jumps forward, turning around whenever he hits a wall, while shooting fireballs every couple seconds. The problem is how Igor can create pretty much unavoidable situations if I get unlucky. Igor pretty much has a chance of doing a high or low jump when he touches the ground, and if he jumps from certain positions, I pretty much have no way of avoiding him, meaning I pretty much just have to get lucky with how he jumps. And even if I do avoid Igor himself, I still have to worry about the fireballs he shoots, which can also corner me if I get unlucky. My best strategy was staying on the left side of the arena, and I just need to spam daggers while hoping I get lucky enough with Igor's AI. But it just wasn't happening. It takes around 15 minutes to make it to this point each time, and the luck and execution it takes to do this fight damageless was just too much. There's no way I'd be able to beat the last 2 levels, especially with level 5 being even worse. There is another strategy I can try, but it's far from ideal. In the Fleeman room, instead of killing the Fleeman as they jump over me, where the timing is always the same, I can instead try and kill them right as they start jumping, which is way more difficult to pull off consistently, and missing any throws is pretty much an instant loss. But it's way faster than the previous method, and also lets me collect any items the Fleemans drop, which does mean I can instantly lose to a sub-weapon drop,
Oh my god.
but they can also drop big hearts. With a big heart drop, I can kill way more Fleemen, giving me a way higher chance of getting to the end of the room with more than 4 life left, meaning I have 1 hit of leeway during the creature fight. I can also make the optimization of making sure to get hit backwards from the Fleeman rather than forwards, which sounds counterintuitive, but this will make the Fleeman run off screen, so I won't get hit multiple times in a row. Now you may be wondering why I didn't just grab this extra big heart near the beginning of the stage, and it's not because I didn't know it existed and only found out about it during editing. I'm just personally not a huge fan of this one. Anyway, if I do get lucky enough to reach the creature with more than 4 life left, it's a lot more doable of a fight. I now only have to get lucky with Igor once, so if everything goes correctly, we can move on to... Now, as bad as level 4 is, level 5 is way, way worse. Because of the boss, taking any damage here is pretty much already a loss. The level starts off with 2 Fleamen, which we can despawn by running to the left and jumping over them. After taking care of this skeleton, my next obstacle is this staircase, which has a Fleaman in front of it and a skeleton above it throwing bones downward. I can take care of the Fleaman by precisely throwing a knife as he jumps, and then I need to carefully time when to climb up the stairs while avoiding the skeleton's projectiles. Stage 5 requires more hearts to beat than any other stage, so I next need to grind off of this big heart in the next room. This is by far the most dangerous grinding spot in the game, since this skeleton will be constantly throwing projectiles at me. I also only get 3 hearts per loop rather than 4, since I need to kill this skeleton each time I reset the room, making it the slowest grinding spot as well. After grinding to around 30 hearts here, I need to take care of 3 more Fleamen before making it to the next room, where I need to despawn 1 final Fleaman and also encounter my first Axe Armors. Axe Armors are by far the bulkiest common enemies in the game, taking 13 daggers to defeat, so I need to avoid them whenever possible. Thankfully, they're pretty passive enemies, and their axe throws are pretty easy to avoid by just ducking or jumping over them, so getting past these guys isn't too bad. The next room is fairly simple, with the only obstacle being an Axe Armor I can't avoid. Thankfully, as tanky as they are, daggers actually deal with them really well, so we can make it to the penultimate room, where we meet the most infuriating staircase in the game. This staircase has a bone pillar on top of it blocking me from going up the stairs. I am able to stand on the stairs in a way that I can hit the bone pillar but he can't hit me, but since I need to press up to use the sub-weapon, unless I input up on the same frame as I press attack, using a dagger will make me climb up the stairs, which will put me in range of the bone pillar's fireballs. What makes it worse is that this red skeleton will also usually walk to this side of the room, and then kinda just hang out there in the worst possible position, which makes it really difficult to attack the bone pillar safely. What I need to do is precisely kill the red skeleton while avoiding the bone pillar's fireballs, which will make him change his movement pattern once he revives, and then I can finally slowly kill the bone pillar. This brings us to the final room of level 5, where I have another 99 hearts grind so I can take care of the Axe Armors, and have enough hearts for the boss. Death. Death is by far the most difficult fight in the game. Every few seconds, he'll spawn 3 scythes which will fly in your direction, trapping you. These can thankfully be destroyed, but because of the dagger's terrible hitbox and the fact I can't duck while using it, they can often trap me in a way that I have no choice but to get hit. And with Death jumping around the arena as well, staying alive for long enough to kill him is ridiculously difficult, even with full health. How these scythes work is that they'll stay in place for a bit after they spawn, then fly towards your character. After moving for long enough, they'll stop again and repeat. The problem is that the amount of time they pause for is random. If they always stayed paused for the same amount of time, I'd be able to always start moving when the scythes do, so they'd always go to a place I'm not. But since they can stay paused for different amounts of time, if they're too close to me, I pretty much just have to hope they move at a convenient time. The amount of time can vary by around 3 seconds, so luck really has to be on my side. I also have to worry about them moving in ways that'll corner me, as well as getting hit right as they spawn. With everything that has to go right in this fight, the odds of me making it here and beating Death aren't very high. After hundreds of practice attempts with this fight, the best strategy I found was by starting off the fight by staying on the left platform as much as possible, while throwing as many daggers as I could. If Death stays in a good position and I also get lucky with how the scythes move, I can remove as much as half of Death's health really quickly. If this doesn't happen though, I just have to try and avoid the scythes and Death jumping around while attacking him as much as possible. This is by far the most difficult fight in the game to do knife only, but with enough health, luck, and execution, it is possible.
Holy crap, oh my god. Oh my god, we made it to stage 6.
And if I make it all the way here and manage to beat Death, we reach the final level. After the torture that is levels 4 and 5, stage 6 thankfully isn't as bad. It's the shortest stage in the game, having only 6 different screens, but it isn't free by any means. The level starts off with this bridge, being filled with the phantom bats from the first level. Thankfully, you can just run past them, with the only challenge being having to time these 2 precise jumps. The next room has 2 skeletons which aren't too difficult to deal with, but right after there will be more eagles dropping fleamen. I have to get to these stairs here, but doing so without taking damage is really difficult. With how many fleamen are on screen, the safest thing to do is just take a hit or two to get to the stairs. The next room has more eagles with fleamen, but thankfully, if you reload the room until the first eagle spawns on the left side, getting up the stairs without taking damage is almost completely consistent. And so after one final grind for 99 hearts, we reach the final boss of Castlevania, Dracula. Thankfully, Dracula isn't nearly as luck-based as the creature or death. The first phase has him teleporting around the arena, shooting 3 fireballs each time. We need to time a precise jump over these, and we can hit his head once each time, his only vulnerable point. But the real issue with this phase is how he spawns. He can sometimes spawn directly on you, and if you move in the wrong direction, you'll get hit. And since we can only get hit once or twice, this is obviously a problem. I'm fairly certain there is a pattern to how he spawns. For instance, he usually spawned facing the opposite direction of what he was last facing. But since there's exceptions to this which I couldn't really find any information about online, it's effectively luck if this happens to me. It's thankfully not too common, so after 24 well-timed jumps, we can reach Phase 2. Phase 2 thankfully has basically no luck involved, but he's the bulkiest boss in the game, taking an insane 43 knives to defeat. How this fight works is that Dracula will jump towards you, shooting fireballs every now and then. Whenever you're close enough to him, he'll also do a high jump so you can run under him. The only real challenge with this phase is his fireballs. They go in the direction of where you were when the attack starts, so if you mistime a jump, there's a good chance you'll get hit. And dying here means at the very least another 35 minutes until I get another try. So, yeah, now I just have to do all that without dying, picking up any other sub-weapon, or running out of hearts. I mean, you probably saw this coming.
We made it back to stage 6. Holy crap, man, we're back. Unfortunate. Please don't hit me. I got hit. Oh, that's so bad. How am I gonna beat Dracula without taking damage? Doable, but not likely. Alright, let's just pray I can execute and we don't get unlucky. Fine. Damn it, man. Yeah, I got bad luck there. It's unfortunate, man. It was bound to happen. I mean, I got halfway through phase 1 at least. The very least. It's really unfortunate. Okay, should be good enough for him to jump. Yep. Okay. That was close. We did it. Oh my god. It's over, man. It's over. Holy crap.
So yes, with extreme amounts of patience and luck, you can beat Castlevania 1 with only the knife, which if you want to watch the full thing, you can check out here. So with that, thanks for watching. A huge thanks to everyone who showed up during the live streams of this, cause I probably would have gone insane otherwise. Heckin' 1,000 likes, I'll do this in Dracula X. Goodbye.